We can't afford to step off the pedal of industrialization, but at the same time, there's an urgent need to be sustainable. Everybody wants to talk about climate, but nobody talks about the sustainability factor, the actual problem of climate change, which we are facing all over around the country.
I'm more worried. It is not the senior people who are affected. The younger people are getting affected because of this the wastewater. We need to wake up. You know, the kidney failure, which was 1 in 1 lakh about 12 years back, today it's 1 in 5,000. You know, I worked on the solar energy, the potential in the country way back in 2009. I mapped the regions, which I called it as a solar hotspot. Today, because of the volume of the solar generation has increased, the cost of generation has come down. When I talked about contaminated water given to the Kolar, I was attacked 3 times, but I don't have any cover.
Our guest today is Dr. T V Ramachandra, scientist with the Indian Institute of Science. Hello and welcome to What India Needs podcast with me, Shutapa Paul. In the noise and clutter of daily life, are we missing out on discussing pertinent issues that affect our nation? Let us find out together on this podcast. India pretty much missed the Industrial Revolution, and while American and European nations made great strides, we were left to play catch up. Today, we can't afford to step off the pedal of industrialization, but at the same time, there's an urgent need to be sustainable. Our guest today is Dr. T V Ramachandra, scientist with the Indian Institute of Science. He very famously predicted that Bangalore would go the Cape Town way, and his prediction came over a decade ago. Thank you so much, Dr. T V Ramachandra, for joining us on What India Needs podcast. My first question to you, of course, with everything that we've recently seen in Bangalore, is Bangalore dying? Have we reached the point of ruin?
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me for the discussion. Yes, I agree with you. The Bangalore is really doing bad. This I predicted about 6 or 7 years back. See, we use big data, spatial data to analyze what is the changes happening in the system, and also we can predict what is likely to happen. See, when I analyze that, city of Bangalore today is about 740 square kilometer. In this 740 square kilometer, way back in 1800, we had 1452 interconnected water bodies and 82% green cover. And because of that, we had a very cool climate. The May month, the temperature was about 14 to 16 degrees Celsius. And for a few days in December, the temperature was 0 degrees Celsius. And we were growing apple in Bangalore at a place called Palace Orchard, closer to Indian Institute of Science.
Which year?
This is the 1500 to 1800. The data, the record shows that we were growing apples. But unfortunately, the city of Bangalore today has transformed into in 90s, it has become the waste city. That means we were littering the waste everywhere. And today it's a dead city. The reason for terming it as a dead city is mainly because it's unlivable. We do not have sufficient oxygen. We do not have sufficient water. Now, when you look at the transformation that has happened in the Bangalore landscape, see, 1970s, we had 68% green cover and about 8% was under buildings. Today, 86% is a paved surface and less than 4% is the green cover. The transition from porous landscape to the paved landscape has led to the water crisis. This is mainly, which I would term it as the absence of water urbanism in our planning. What does the water urbanism they promote? Your surfaces has to be porous surface so that the recharge of groundwater will happen when it rains. The city of Bangalore receives the rainfall of 700 to 850 millimeter. If you catch that rainwater, you have 15 TMC of water. But what is the city requires is about 18 TMC of water. If this 40 to 50% of rainwater can be recharged, can be allowed to infiltrate, then we have sufficient water during the post-monsoon period. That is missing because our agenda was the growth, development. Development at what cost? See, increasing GDP or a gross domestic product will not give us the oxygen
Right.
or the livable city. The GDP might give money so that you will have the currency in your wallet or in your cards, but not the food what you want, the quality of food, etc. Now, when you look at the city of Bangalore, as I said earlier, 68% green cover has become 3%. And if this situation continues, in another 5 years, the 98.5% of the city landscape would be covered with a paved surface. For anybody to survive, there should be sufficient oxygen. Oxygen is provided by the plants.
Right.
Plants, the terrestrial plants as well as aquatic plants.
Right.
The like producers or algae in the water body also gives us oxygen. But we are degrading that. When I look at the growth, there has been 1,078% increase in the paved surface or a concrete area over the last 5 decades. And we have lost 88% vegetation and 79% of the water bodies, which has, now when you look at the vegetation cover, we did a quantification of number of trees in Bangalore. When using a remote sensing data, we did that quantification. For that, what we did is initially we carried out a detailed field survey.
Right.
In couple of wards, like IISc campus, which is about 400 acres, and Malleshwaram, Rajajinagar, like that. And we did a detailed censusing of trees. And when we did that censusing, we also noted down the location of the trees, type of trees.
Right.
We know where what kind of species occur. And when we link that with the remote sensing data, using the spectral signature of the trees, we could the map where what kind of species occur in Bangalore.
Right.
And we using the remote sensing data for the entire Bangalore, we have quantified how many trees are there in Bangalore. Our study about 4 years back, we had estimated about 14,78,000 trees are there in Bangalore for a population of 95 the lakhs or 9.5 million. Now, when you look at this ratio, for every 7 or 8%, there is one tree. Now, you might ask me a question: why do we need trees? Because the trees gives us oxygen, and when we breathe, when we are alive, all of us breathe. When we breathe, we give out a carbon dioxide to an extent of 540 to 980 grams per person per day. The younger people, 980 grams per person per day, while the elderly people, 540 grams per person per day. And 1 hectare of tree in a year, during because of the photosynthesis, sequester the carbon to an extent of 6 to 9 tons. Now, by that ratio, for every human being, there should have been 7 or 8 trees. But what we have in Bangalore is 7 or 8%, one tree. This is nothing new. If you look at our literatures, the scriptures talk about the importance of the nature and conservation of nature. For example, Bible. If you look at the Bible, there is a mention of nature conservation at least 320 times.
Right.
Similarly, Quran talks about imminent war if you pollute the water bodies. That's where when you visit Dargah, before you visit Dargah, you have to clean your feet and finger with a clean water.
Right.
Then only you can visit the Dargah. The idea is that when people practice that at Dargah, they thought that people will practice at home as well as in the neighborhood. Now, if you look at the literatures which I follow, Matsya Purana, it talks about the linkage between the water, the child, and the tree. See, if you have a well at home, you are wealthy. 10 wells are equal to 1 lake. 10 lakes are equal to 1 sarovar. 10 sarovar is equal to 1 child, and 10 children are equal to 1 tree. That means benefit of having 10 children you can also have by planting and nurturing a tree. Now, I'll put it other way. Those who cut the tree, they are murdering their own 10 children. This is the message that has to reach the destination of the people who are behind cutting the trees. When you talk about development, people come with the illogical thing saying that the cutting trees is inevitable. But I would say if you do the planning, then you can minimize the cutting the tree.
Correct.
For example, Jai Mahal Road, when it was about to the proposal to widen, there were 179 trees were to be removed. The forest officer, when he met me,
Hmm.
I suggested him to identify the nearby locality where vacant land is there, government land is there, to take up the planting of a sapling which are at least 3 or 4 years old,
Right.
and then think about transplanting the native species of Bangalore. So when he mooted this idea, the Bangaloreans appreciated.
Hmm.
That means for any sensible the action by the bureaucrats, there is a support by the people.
Right.
But unfortunately, today we plan the city without using the data. Lack of planning or the unplanned urbanization is costing us.
Right.
We are paying the heavy price because of the reduced the tree number in the city. There is oxygen deficiency in the city, and there are instances people use oxygen cylinders in the late evening. There are people with asthma and bronchitis use the oxygen, and similarly senior citizens use oxygen, which highlight there is a oxygen deficiency in the city. Now coming to the water, see, we require about 18 TMC of water. 45% of this water come from the groundwater, while the remaining 55 to 60% come from the Kaveri basin. Now, for the groundwater to be there, you need to allow the recharge of the groundwater.
Right.
That means you should allow the water to percolate when it rains.
Right.
But unfortunately, because of 1078% increase in concrete area, we are not allowing the water to percolate.
So this is because of mindset issues. This is because of lack of planning. What
No,
would you
this is
say?
purely a lack of planning, and I call it as a irresponsible
Lack of
urbanization.
awareness also.
Well, I do not call that, because this is a irresponsible behavior. For the last 1.5 decade, I have been alerting the government. This is deliberately done, saying that they have to increase the GDP of the region, gross domestic product.
Hmm. But why
But my
not
question,
sustainably? That is the question.
that my question is, the GDP at what cost? If you have money, if you don't have water at home, and if you cannot breathe, then what is the point in having the GDP?
Right.
But what we need is a sustainable solution. You need to sustain the natural resources. At the same time, you should plan the city. Now, my suggestion to the Bangalore, if you want to regain the glory of Bangalore, we need to decongest the city. We need to shift some of the major installation, major industries out of the city to the other regions in the state.
Right.
It could be the towns, the tier 2 towns or tier 3 towns, or the taluk, or the district headquarters. In that process, what happens is we will reverse the migration. See, today what is happening is youth in those villages, they are migrating to the city for a job, while the elderly people are at home, they cannot do the farming. But if the government accept my suggestion of reversing this trend, and if we can do the decongesting, then the industry will go to the villages, so that youth can work in the industry during the weekdays, and the weekend they can do the farming. 65% or 70% of our the system is agrarian.
Right.
That we need to sustain the agriculture. The best way to do it is take the job to the doorsteps of the youth,
Yeah.
so that they can work,
No, there are.
and also they can practice the farming.
Right.
Now you might ask, where do you see this model working? See, we already have these models working in various parts of the India. For example, in Tamil Nadu, there is a triangular towns. The towns are in triangular junctions. Tanjavur, Kumbakonam, Tiruvallur. Because of the good infrastructure, because of the good the bus connectivity, the youth from the nearby rural area, they travel to the town, they work during the weekdays, and weekend they do the farming.
Right.
This is the model to be replicated throughout the country, so that we can minimize the unfortunate illogical urbanization. That is what is happening.
Do you have any numbers on what kind of this triangular model that you are talking about? How many youth are engaged in
Well,
jobs like
the
this?
nearby areas, whatever the one, at least as per the earlier statistics, the about 1,000 to 1,200 youth travel to the towns and then they go back. So that is the kind of the thing. This is about 4 or 5 years back.
Right.
What I'm telling is, this model is called cluster based development. Depending on the resources available in a region, you plan the industries. For example, where you grow the cotton, we should have the garment industries. Where steel and iron ore extraction happens, we should have the steel industries. and where intelligent kids are there, like South Canara, North Canara, Hubli, Dharwad, we should have IT sector there, so that the youth can take advantage of that. And locating the industries on those locations, that is called cluster based development, depending on the resource available. This is what Mahatma Gandhi ji talked about it.
It's also
Surajya, which means providing the job and providing the education
right.
to the youth where they want,
Yeah.
not shift them to the other location, and they lose the family connection, and there are other problems also.
Also, our cities are becoming unlivable, right? Because there are too many people coming here looking for livelihood, various kinds of jobs and professions that people are coming here, from a daily wage earner to a taxi driver to an IT professional. Everybody's coming to cities, and not just Bangalore. And therefore, all the cities, we can't handle that weight of resource drainage, right? Whether it's our space, whether it's water, whether it's air. So making tier 2, tier 3 towns hubs of jobs would be good for all involved, but we see few companies doing that, very few. I mean, tier 2, tier 3 India has so much demand. We keep hearing about consumer demand, but the actual setting up of plants, there are very few who are doing
No,
that.
no, the reason for that is we have not planned the appropriate infrastructure and basic communities. If you do that, any region, you will see the boom. For example, Manipal, you know, before my birth, the PICE revolutionized the region with the industries and education institution. Today, youth from that region or the nearby region, they don't come to the Bangalore. They work there, and they get the education there. Good quality education they get. And more importantly, we need to do the planning. See, it is not just the urban versus rural problem. We have the threat of climate
Right.
changes. In climate is happening. We need to have the resilient system, otherwise we are going to pay the heavy price. We will neither have water nor the air, and with the changes in climate, rainfall become erratic and increase in temperature.
As we are seeing.
With the increase in temperature, you will have more and more vector-borne diseases, and that too with the degradation of the natural cover, you have more and more zoonotic diseases.
Right.
These are the origin from the forest or the wild area. Those virus and bacteria escape from that,
Absolutely.
and we'll pay the price. As we paid the price in the case of COVID, we are going to pay the more and more prices for these vector-borne diseases. That is where we need to wake up. Our path should be the climate resilient, sustainable path. We should not look at the Western model and dense the region and then suffer. That tomorrow's children should get the right for the air, the quality air, and the water and the environment. Then that development is called sustainable development.
Correct.
If I am depriving them their right to life, then if I have money, if I reach the $5 trillion, what is the use of making the country $5 trillion when our children struggle for their the water, air, and quality of water?
So you're
Now
saying
look,
you are, I know that, you are repeatedly saying this to the government, various governments, not just talking
well, I've
about.
been telling all the government.
What is the response that you're getting?
Well, there is no response. When I meet them, I get a nice words, but after that, those things are forgotten. See, that is where you know we should also assert as a citizen. We do not do the job properly. What right we have to question anyone when we cannot go and vote as a citizen of the country?
Correct.
What kind of quality of life we can demand? See, did we vote even in the recent election? And today the elections are happening. Look at the voting. We do not even cross 70% or 80%. So that is a tragedy. Till we assert, till our children wake up, our youth wake up and demand, the other section of the society will take advantage of that. In the name of development, they loot the resources. Mismanagement of resources will help them to loot the resources.
Right.
That is where we should not allow. If that has to stop, then all of us have to vote. And if we vote, then probably you will see the changes happening. I have a simple solution. We should link the Aadhaar with the voting. The people who do not vote, we should deactivate the Aadhaar, so that if they have to get the Aadhaar reactivated, they have to pay the penalty of 5,000 rupees, and that makes them to work. People might say this is a harsh decision. If irresponsible people are there, harsh decision has to be taken at any cost. Then second thing, the voting day is set as a paid
Holiday.
leave day.
Yes.
Then we need to vote and then show that we have done the job. If a person has not voted but he has traveled to his hometown, his salary should be cut for that month, entire month, not just that one day. If that is done, then things will change in our country.
True.
Then we will have a right people. When we have right people, the right kind of thinking happens. This country, there are revolutions have happened. We had done the planning properly. But, we do not. For example, Karnataka, in the 80s, we were in the forefront as far as watershed programs are concerned. Watershed, if you manage watershed, you will sustain the water. This is what people understood. If water is there, farmers can grow the crop. If farmers can grow the crop, they will have their livelihood.
But
Now,
not just Bangalore.
not just Bangalore,
Every
that
city
entire country.
is
See, for
having a
example,
problem.
you look at Western Ghats. 55 to 60% of the water required for Bangalore come from the Western Ghats Kaveri Basin.
Right.
Now, let us look at the land cover change in the Kaveri Basin. Over the last 6 decades, we have lost 45% forest in the Kaveri Basin. And we have lost about, another 15 or 20% of the other, the fertile land. The more and more lands are becoming degraded land. Now, if you want to understand what is the benefit of having the forest there, see, my study shows wherever forests are there of native species, the water bodies have water throughout the year. 12 months water is available. That is mainly because the native forest allow the percolation of water or infiltration of the water. That water which is stored in the underground layer is the water available to us during the post-monsoon period.
Right.
Now, when you do that percolation, when the water is available, that also decides the livelihood of the people. When water is available throughout the year, farmers can grow multiple crop or a cash crop. In a region where the forest cover is less than 30%, water is available only during the monsoon of 4 to 5 months, which means they can grow only one crop.
Right.
Okay, now let us look at in the economic term. In a region where multiple crops are grown, because of the water availability, they earn 1,54,000 rupees per acre per year. Whereas in the other region, where only one crop is grown, they earn only 32,000 rupees per acre per year. Now, the most important thing is the yield of the crop. Let us look at the yield of the crop in these two regions where native species forests are there. Yield of paddy, for example, paddy is as high as the 16 to 18 quintal per acre. Whereas in the other region where the native species forests are fewer in number, less than 30%, the yield of the paddy is 6 to 8 quintal per acre. Now, why is the reason? That's mainly because where native species forests are there, pollinators are diverse and abundant. When pollinators are diverse and abundant, pollination become efficient. When pollination become efficient, yield of the crop is higher. That's where you get a yield of 16 to 18 quintal per acre as against 6 to 8 quintal per acre. Now the government of India keeps telling about doubling the income of the farmer. I would say just maintain the ecosystem integrity. Then the farmers will get water throughout the year. And farmers get the pollinators, which does the pollination. They get the double the income. That is what the India should do it. Because 65% of our people depend on the agriculture, on the farming. We should incentivize the farmer, and we should also make sure that we maintain the forest in the vicinity so that farmers get the right of water and also the pollinators. So when they do that, there is a sustainability. This is not 1 or 2 days. For the last 10 years, I have studied some of the villages. This yield is sustained. It is not like the yield what you get with the synthetic fertilizers.
Right.
This is the sustainable path we should adopt. We should not promote the synthetic fertilizer. Look at the tragedy of synthetic fertilizer. The people, earlier people were fighting for synthetic fertilizer like urea, etc. because there was a mismanagement of urea. When Anant Kumar was the minister in the chemicals and fertilizer, At that time, the suggestion was given to him, the understanding the implication of the urea being used for adulterating the food product. Suggestion was given is to have the neem mixed with the urea. It's called neem coated urea. The moment it was done, adulteration came to an end, and with that, urea was available in plenty, and because of the neem was added, the pest resistance also came. And look at the last 10 years, I have not seen any farmers going to the Delhi demanding for fertilizer. That means we have the solution. Sensibly, if we plan it, we can sustain the resources.
Right.
This is what some of the examples we have to see, that it is scaled up and implemented throughout the globe, so that everyone.
Because, correct. I mean, see, India is at a point where, we can't step off the growth pedal. We want to keep growing. But at the same time, we need to grow sustainably. Do you think it's time to have a corporate or a ministerial role, rather, where they need to take a look at this sustainability factor more seriously, where it's not lip service? Like right now, when we hear from our political class, everybody wants to talk about climate, but nobody talks about the sustainability factor, the actual problem of climate change, which we are facing all over around the country, right? It's not just in the north or in the south, it's everywhere. There are climate events happening everywhere. Do we now need actual, serious ministerial roles, where the job is to only look at sustainability and climate change?
No, that is where, the climate resilient developmental path, which I keep talking about, we need to adopt that. First and foremost thing we need to make sure is our bureaucrats who are in executive mechanism are knowledgeable. We need to ensure, and there is a problem actually. We want to put in all the sector only the IAS officers. Some sectors require the competency of technology. Technical, the competency is
Right.
required, which is missing. That is where we are seeing the problem. What is the point in having the forest department or forest ministry with the IAS officer, or a forest, the division in the Ministry of Environment and Forest? What we need to have is a technically competent person who can manage the forest. And the same thing holds good with our politicians, the people whom we elect as MPs and MLA. We need to make sure before they start doing the job of legislation, they understand.
Oh,
I
that's
think
a
there
tough
should be.
one.
No, it is not tough. We should make sure they all, when they file their nomination, we should make sure at least they get through the aptitude test of the simple
Oh, that's
question. We need to do that. If we don't do it, then we get the same kind of jokers whom we are getting for the last 6 or 7 decades. We'll continue to get.
I agree.
We need to assert. See that today's youth, if we assert, tomorrow we'll see the changes happening. If we don't assert, and if we say it is difficult, it will continue to be difficult. No, it is nothing is difficult in our country. Look at the direct benefit transfer with the Aadhaar linking. Didn't it work?
Absolutely.
People said it's difficult. We have succeeded.
Yeah.
That means we need to take a decision without mercy. We might be branded as this one, but still that decision will give us the sustainable path. Otherwise, our children will pay the price. We might get the resources, we might run the show, but our children and grandchildren will not have the resources.
So a lot of people would say, Dr. Ramachandra, that India's huge population is a problem. It's an obstacle to implement anything, right? It can be a boon for us because we have a very vibrant working class. At least we can have that manpower and woman power, but population is a major hindrance to do anything. What would you say to that?
No, the population is an excuse by the inefficient, incompetent people. We can take advantage of the population. I will ask a simple question. I have done the analysis. 20% of the elite section of the society wasting 80% of our natural resources is a threat to the country or the global sustainability than 80% of the people using only 20% of the resources. That is our consumption pattern is the problem. Even at global level, 20% of industrialized countries the using or misusing the 80% of our natural resources is contributing to changes in climate. That is where we need to assert. We need to quantify what is the emissions and what is our sequestration potential. For example, Western Ghats. We have done the quantification of the carbon sequestration. During photosynthesis, the plants take away the carbon dioxide that
Right.
is there in the environment, and they convert it into oxygen. They store it in the plant. How much it stores? The forest in Western Ghat stores about 1.4 million gigagram of carbon, and which amounts to about 100 billion rupees, or a 1.4 billion dollars. And every year about 38,000 gigagram of carbon is sequestered by the forest in Western Ghat, which is equivalent to the emission that happens in the towns in the other cities in that region, like Bangalore, Trivandrum, Cochin, etc. The nature knows how to balance, but we cannot cross the threshold. In our the path of unsustainable path of development, we are crossing the limit.
Right.
See, the Western Ghat constitute only the 5% of India's geographical area. Out of that 5%, we have mapped 40% as ecologically sensitive. They are called ecologically sensitive because they have unique the physical and chemical integrity. Because of that, you have the unique biological diversity there, biological integrity. Kind of species that occurs there, you do not get anywhere. And look at the number of species that occur across the latitudinal gradient. At 8 to 14 degree latitude, you have the highest number of plants and animals. Highest number of plants and animals means you have diversity of plants and animals. You have different types of plants and animals, which means you have different food items. The different food gives you the immunity. That's where when COVID happened, the villagers in Western Ghat didn't face the COVID crisis because the kind of food they were taking was giving them immunity. Whereas the city dwellers who were having only some cereals and
Immunity.
the immunity, they were not, the city people were dying like insects. Whereas in rural area, in the villages, I didn't see that kind of the thing. For example, when I go for field work, I don't go to the hotel. The local people take me their home. When I go to their home, in half an hour, they prepare the dishes, at least five varieties, from five herbal the items. That gives me the immunity. Even today, if I am healthy and I can think positively because of that kind of the food I get
Right.
in the when I work in the ecosystem. Now, when you look at the Western Ghat, look at that at the 8 to the 16-degree latitude, you have the highest number of plants and animals. Which part of the globe it corresponds to? Kerala, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Goa. And that is what we have to conserve it. The species that occur only there. It doesn't occur anywhere. We call them as endemic species. If you look at tree endemism, is highest in Kerala. Then is the Karnataka, then Goa, and it comes down in Maharashtra thing.
Right.
See, like that, we need to identify the pocket and this one. See, if I can identify we have done the mapping of eco-sensitive villages in India, in Western Ghats. That decision support system, I put it online. It is called Western Ghat Spatial Decision Support System. You can identify the villages. Suppose you want to know particular village whether it's ecologically sensitive. You will come to know whether it is ecologically sensitive region 1, 2 or 3 or 4. If it is, why it is, what kind of plants and animals are there, and what is the benefit of that, ecosystem services, etc. All those things you will come to know. See, now you understood the importance of this region with the diversity of plants and animals. Not only that, here rivers and streams are perennial, which means the water is available throughout the year. Because of that water security, we have food security in Deccan Peninsular India because of the Western Ghat. Now, the entire, if you look at the population that is there, 45 million people in Peninsular India depend on Western Ghat for the water.
Do you have plans of doing something similar for other parts of the
Well, there are
country?
many students of mine who have started working on the various part of the thing, but this is the idea has to be taken
But this is all
forward.
part of the institute's work, sir. Are there any governments or any
No, no. See, this
companies
is it
involved?
is it is the academicians. Their this one when they identify the area, we start thinking about it and we come up with the solution. Whatever work I have done, is the this one research I have undertaken during my professional life. I got the funding from the Ministry of Science and Technology, Ministry of Environment, Forest, and when I have proposed those things, the funding came, and that is where I could come up with this kind of the idea. See, now the Western Ghats Spatial Decision Support System, I launched it on 14 July. Within a week, I saw there was a question in the parliament by a lady MP. Okay. Not only that, within 10 days, a committee from the Ministry of Environment and Forest come to my lab asking for the details.
Who was the MP?
The one of the lady MP from the Western Ghats region. Okay. So I don't this one.
Okay.
Okay.
I will find that out. And then what happened?
See,
when
then what happened? This committee which came, they listened to my presentation. I explained all the benefit. I highlighted the carbon sequestration potential of the Western Ghats. I said, see, 100 billion rupees, okay, when I go abroad as a part of the government delegation, my argument to the Western countries is the emission what they have done is sequestered by the trees in my Western Ghat. They need to pay for that.
Right.
When they pay for, see, that is what we have to see
Compensation,
that.
that's what we've
Yeah,
been
that is
asking
true.
for.
And second thing, you said country has to develop. I agree with that. Western Ghats, the farmers earning 1,54,000 rupee acre per year compared to 32,000 rupee per acre per year. Is it not a development? Converting a forest into monoculture plantation of rubber, acacia, etc., only a one fellow gets the development. But in the process, when we convert a native species forest into monoculture plantation, water availability in the stream comes down to 7 or 8 months. That means the local villagers will lose 4 to 5 months of water. When you talk about development, that has to be holistic development. Everyone should develop, not just handful of few
I
people.
think the definition of development has to become, as you said, holistic, and I would say inclusive. It
It has
cannot
to
be
be
at the
inclusive.
cost of
That's
another
correct. That is where
community and
that
region.
is where the science and technology can do marvelous job. The availability of data. Today you have remote sensing data, big spatial data. 70 onwards. Every 21 or 30 days you have picture of the earth. Once you have picture of the earth, you can picturize, you can understand what is the pattern of changes. If you are talking about development which is sustainable, you need to understand the spatial pattern of the changes. Then you can visualize. That's what I did for Bangalore. I looked at what is the growth pattern from 1973 to 2012. I predicted for 2020 and 2025. I said Bangalore is going to be unlivable because of that data.
What are you predicting now? Tell me 10 more years of Bangalore. What do you predict?
No, I'll tell you, I'm really worried of Bangalore of today. The increasing the diseases is really worrisome. If you are earning, if you have money in your wallet, if your children don't have health,
What do you
what is
have?
the use of that? For example, increasing the respiratory diseases like asthma, bronchitis, then cancer, kidney failure. Bangalore is number one as far as cancer is concerned. See, I have done a study of the implication of the wastewater getting into the lake. We have never made the bureaucrats accountable. There is a lack of transparency. They pollute our water bodies, discharging the untreated sewage and industrial effluent by irresponsible industries. When that water gets into the groundwater, that will have the nitrate and heavy metal. Nitrate is a carcinogen which introduces cancer. Heavy metal also gives the similar problem. I looked at the vegetable that is grown in the vicinity of Vartur and Belandur, the villages like Siddhapura, Ramgondanli, etc. We collected those green leaves, radish, etc. and also fish sample from the lake. And the milk in that region from the cattle, all of them had heavy metal. Heavy metal in our food is killing Bangaloreans. We need to wake up. The kidney failure, which was 1 in 1 lakh about 12 years back, today it's 1 in 5,000. Every ward we have dialysis unit. When dialysis units were installed or inaugurated, you will see a one full page advertisement by a politician saying that he is inaugurating the thing. Essentially, he is demonstrating that his ward has become unlivable. More and more unhealthy people are there. I have seen, I'm more worried. It is not the senior people who are affected. The younger people are getting affected because of this the wastewater, contaminant in the wastewater. When I have a education program
Right.
where network of schools and colleges work with me, environment education program. When I visit the schools, I really see a very sad scene in that. For example, Ramgunnahalli, last year when I visited, 8th standard boy had lost the kidney. When I went to the KK High School, Vartur, principal took me to all classes. LKG, one girl child had lost one kidney. In the same school, 8th standard, the two girls had lost both the kidneys. Then he wanted me to visit other classes. I requested him not to take me around. That is the scene. After 6 months, when I visited the same school, I asked the principal, I want to meet the child who was in 8th standard who had lost the kidney. He said, she is no more. In addition to that, he said, the security fellow who was quite young died of the kidney failure in last 6 months. See, we are losing the youth. Youth are the asset of the nation. If we are losing the youth, then this development, for whom is this development? Is it for a bunch of the oldies? Our children has to be secured. Our children had to be healthy.
And alive.
That is, yes, right to life they have. Article 21 of the Indian Constitution says that we all have the right for us to live.
So this study
We should
that
have the
you've
contaminants free. Yeah.
absolutely this study that you've done, where you're seeing the implications on the health of people, at least in the city of Bangalore, high rate of cancer, more and more
Yeah,
kidney
I have
failure.
published it.
So what kind of numbers are you looking at?
Well, when we do the thing is we do the sample. We collect the water sample, food sample, and we look at what is the kind of the.
What's the
When I
sample
say
size? I mean, when you surveyed the people, like what kind of
no,
numbers?
these are the data collected from the hospitals. See, 1 in 1 lakh about 12 years is not my survey data. It is from the hospitals which have provided the thing. That is quite worrying to me. Even based on my research, group of scientists or the doctors from Niemans have looked at the other aspect. How it induces the psychological stress and why these more and more people have the tendency to the kind of a divorce etc in their thing
Is
in
because
our
of
family because of the unlivable environment. When people are exposed to the pollutant, when they go home, even for a small question they are so agitated. That is where the
because
conflict
our
starts.
traffic outside,
That's
or Bangalore
when
is
you
supposed to
when
be
you are
suicide
spending a
capital
few
also.
hours in the traffic in the road, you are inhaling the contaminants. Your body has got those unwanted items that you will express it on your children or on your spouse at home or your parents.
Right, of
That is
course.
where the problem is. During COVID also we saw that.
But high numbers of cancer and kidney patients, especially in the youth, is a very serious matter.
It is very
Is it
that is
not being
where I would
addressed?
say, the we have wonderful act, Water Act. As per the act, polluter has to pay. For that, regulatory agencies we created, pollution control board at state level and central level.
We have
Bec-
pollution
because
control
of
boards.
no, because of their lack of integrity or lack of spinal cord in their body, we have not seen the pollutant free environment in our system. That is the worrying thing.
So today, over 75% of our districts in India are under the risk of, extreme climate change, right? Anything can happen. How do we balance sustainable growth? And we also want to, obviously bring jobs and employment to tier 2, tier 3 India. We also want to keep those districts safe as well. How do we balance this role? I mean, if you had to give some tips.
See, one is that when you talk about changes in climate, you need to arrest the agents of these changes.
Mm.
Essentially greenhouse gases. The emission when you use a vehicle or when you generate electricity, you are polluting the environment with the greenhouse gases.
Right.
You know, for example, if you look at energy sector, 68% still we depend on the coal and other fossil fuels. The emission is so high. If you think about decarbonize, if you think about the sustainable solution, I would say the renewable energy is the best option. I worked on the solar energy, the potential in the country way back in 2009. I mapped the regions, the which I called it as a solar hotspot. You know, we have such a potential. 80% of our country gets a good solar energy with the potential as high as 5 kilowatt per meter square per day, or it amounts to about 77 watts per meter square. Now, you might say that to generate electricity from solar, I have to put PV panel. Where is the land? Look at the kind of land we have. Even a 0.1% of the land, if you do, you get about 100
And yet it
gigawatts
is
of.
not being used to its optimum potential, right? I mean, solar
No,
energy.
no. Fortunately, last 10 years, there is a remarkable change has happened. We have Solar Alliance, and based on my this one, even Karnataka government, we have the incentive-based generation. That is what I mooted when I wrote that article. In fact, I was in the committee of the renewable energy. I suggested that we should pay the people who generate electricity 3 rupees 50 paisa. Then the bureaucrats were asking, why should we pay? I said that if you generate electricity and supplying the electricity to me, you are wasting 30% in the name of form of T&D, transmission distribution loss. Instead of that, I will generate electricity. I will not take electricity from you. You pay me 3 rupees 50 paisa.
Right.
But what happened was the government accepted my suggestion. They have they had an MOU with the institutions who opt for the solar energy with the per unit incentive is about 9 rupees 54 paisa, and 25 years the MOU. Many institutions got into that. They are all beneficiary of that suggestion. They are making money today. Today, because of the volume of the solar generation has increased, the cost of generation has come down. Now that today it is not 9 rupees, it is 2 rupees 50 paisa.
So,
And efficiency has improved.
right.
See, as far as our country is concerned, solar and wind are the best option. And bioenergy. See, we have the bioenergy. We are burning that. We are doing stubble burning. In the process, we are contaminating the environment.
Yeah.
Can't we convert that the
Delhi is
stubble into
unbreathable after
no,
Diwali. I mean, it's terrible.
yeah, stubble burning, the bioethanol, can't we have the bioethanol? Because of the carbohydrate that is there in those residues, can be converted into ethanol
Any
or a
project,
biodiesel.
any project or initiative, not by you, but anything else which is happening in the country which you find inspiring or in the right direction, any other part of the
No,
country.
I would say the push given for the solar energy. If the same push continues for another 10 years, we'll have a sustainable energy.
Right.
That is very important from strategic point of view. Energy security is very important. Even if you are paying extra, worth doing it. Let us not worry about the additional. Second thing, biofuel is another thing. There are the agriculture residue. You can convert that into ethanol. For example, when COVID happened, our demand for ethanol went up by many fold. For as a sanitizer,
Right.
this one. Which state provided that ethanol? By Uttar Pradesh. They converted bagasse, that is the, the sugarcane
Sugarcane.
residue, into the ethanol, supplied it. See, what we need is a leader with vision. When we have leader with vision, that can happen only when youth vote. Otherwise, when we don't vote, we get a leader with mission to loot our resources. We should change that, okay?
True. So when if you, I know you mentioned that let's not look at the West, but if there is not just the West, but also Southeast Asia, Nusantara is coming up as well. As in, if we look outward, are there any sustainability models, countries who are going big on growth, but at the same time balancing sustainability that you would?
There are good examples, best practices are there. Whether you take Switzerland or Japan, you get the thing. But we have our own. Why we are not looking at? For example, if you manage the water bodies. For example, Karnataka, we have about 40,000 water bodies in the form of lake, tanks, etc. If you just do the desilting of the lake once in 2 years, you have solved the water problem. For example, in Bangalore, I said that we receive 700 to 850 millimeter rainfall, which means we get 15 TMC of rainwater. 15 TMC of rainwater means I can meet the 70% of the water demand, which is about 18 TMC. Now, the best option for rainwater harvesting is one is rooftop. Individual houses will have 4 to 5 months water. The next best option, rejuvenate the lake and retain the rainwater in the lake so that groundwater recharge will happen with the clean water.
Right.
You might ask, what is the proof for your statement? Sarki Lake was rejuvenated. I was part of that. It was rejuvenated, within a year, groundwater table went up by 320 feet. And today, after 3 years, when major part of the city is facing with the water crisis and higher temperature, Sarki Lake groundwater table is good and lake has enough water because of the higher moisture content in the atmosphere and the air. The temperature is 2 to 3 degree lower.
Right.
See, that is the model to be replicated throughout Bangalore. We have today 193 water bodies, 198 wards, which means on an average we have one lake in each ward. So if we rejuvenate all the lake, we can retain the rainwater. 70% of the water demand we have met. And if you are using 18 TMC of water, you are also generating 18 TMC of wastewater. If you treat that wastewater through
Right.
the nature-based solution, as we did at Jakkur Lake, Jakkur Lake, way back in 2005, the surrounding there were 30 wells were there. All of them had nitrate. Nitrate were in the wells because people were letting the untreated sewage into the lake,
Right.
which had N and P, nitrogen and phosphorus. As it moved toward the groundwater, N got oxidized to nitrate. Nitrate is a carcinogen which introduced the cancer. I pushed the government to rejuvenate the lake. When the lake, committee was constituted for rejuvenation, I was put as a member of the committee and Yellappa Reddy as a chairman of the committee. At that time, government gave the money which is sufficient to install the secondary treatment plant. But by installing secondary treatment plant, we were not solving the problem of nitrate because it removes only the chemical ions. The nutrient like N and P still are there in that wastewater. The N and P gets in because we all eat protein. The N gets in. We wash cloth with detergent, phosphorus gets in. N and P has to be removed means we need to have tertiary treatment. Then what I did with the secondary treatment plant is I integrated nature-based solution, constructed wetland and algal pond. Constructed wetland is nothing but is a bed of plants, the marshy plant, which will take a higher amount of N and some amount of P, while the algae take the higher amount of P. And we monitored this lake for the last 10 years. That report is available online, integrated wetland ecosystem at Jakkur. If you give the keyword, you will get it. Now, today there are 300 wells in the vicinity of Jakkur Lake. When I collect the water sample, none of them have nitrate, nor the lake. This is the solution. Every ward, if you treat wastewater, leave it to the lake, people have the water. When I treat that wastewater through the nature-based solution of 18 TMC, I have 16 TMC of treated wastewater, which can be reused. 15 TMC because of rainwater harvesting, 16 TMC because of the wastewater reuse.
Right.
31 TMC, which is a sustainable solution, long-term solution. That is what we should do it. But what are we doing? Instead of rejuvenating the lake, which requires small amount of money, we think of mega project like Mekedatu. It is a senseless, illogical project. The Mekedatu project, if it is implemented, we are spending 2,000 crore. In the place, we are losing 5,000 hectares of forest. Look at 5,000 hectares of forest doing the hydrological service. It allows 100 TMC of water, the groundwater recharge does. That means the water retention capability of 5,000 hectare forest is about 100 TMC. We remove that forest, construct a cement dam to store 65 TMC of water. Is this a sensible thing?
Not at all.
Now let us look at the ecosystem services. All the forest you get the goods like timber, fuel wood, etc. It amounts to about 1 million rupees per hectare per year. If you take that, it amounts to about 100 billion rupees. The worth of the forest in that Mekedatu region of 5,000 hectares. We are spending 2,000 crores. That means 20 billion rupees to loot 100 billion rupees of natural resources from the forest. See, all these projects are not scientifically the valid. That is only
How
for
are green tribunals giving them Go
No,
ahead.
Green Tribunal is not giving the thing. The Green Tribunal has put its spanner there. See, that is where the thing. See, that is where when we talk about the truth, we become a vulnerable section of the society. I was attacked 3 times.
Wow.
So, but I don't have any cover. But
When
still,
when wa- when was this?
these are a couple of times it had happened. When I talked about contaminated water given to the Kolar with a partial treatment, you know,
Wow.
that is
Recently? How many years back? I
this is
mean,
about 3 years back.
wow.
And 5 years back, a builder wanted to eliminate me just because I pointed out how much encroachment he had done in Balandur, SEZ area.
Wow.
Between Balandur and Agaram, there is a wetland that was identified for SEZ. You know, in that land, the builder had encroached 3.5 acres. When the local people approached me, we did the quantification of that. I also said, what is the economic worth of the land? I said about 400 crores. The NGT penalized the builder 149 crores.
Wow.
Okay, that is the time the builder, when the NGT constituted a committee and put me as a member, when I went there, I was attacked, I was abused.
And physically attacked as
Yes,
well?
physically the things what was there with my students, the GPS camera were taken, they were physically lifted and thrown out, but they couldn't, they didn't touch one of my students so strong. He said, as long as TVR is here, I will be with him. That's all.
Did you file a complaint with the police
The
and
media took
everything?
it forward. I don't file anything because I am doing it for the society. If society wants me, it is their job to protect me. That's my view. Why should I ask for any additional security?
Wow.
Okay.
So in a
And a
sense, it's
gentleman
almost like
calls
an
me.
activist.
Well, it's not activist. It is unfortunate part. When
Unfortunately,
you
but
talk about science
yeah.
for the benefit of society, the section which is getting affected is the one which unfortunately is a powerful thing. You know why this is happening in our system?
Why?
This is a nexus of politicians, the bureaucrats, consultant engineers. That is the problem. You know, what Santosh Hegde says, we should make sure this legislator do not meddle in the executive system.
Mm.
That is should happen in our country. Legislators, when we elect them, the councillor or the MLAs or MP, their job is to do legislation. They should not meddle with the executive system. They should not fire a bureaucrat. Bureaucrats have to do their job.
Correct.
And they should be held responsible. There should be a transparent mechanism. Accountability has to be there. The day when you make accountable the bureaucrats, you will see prosperity in our country.
So you're not scared with
I'm
all
not
these
scared.
attacks that have happened. You're still.
I am not scared. I am sure no one can touch me. I have come with a purpose on this land. I'll finish that and I will go. No one can touch me.
No, but it's wonderful. I mean, you have a very long career, obviously, and by God's grace, you will have
No, why
more.
should we fear? See, when you are doing it for the society,
And for the right reasons. Absolutely.
and I'm not taking anything home, why should I worry? Even the money what I get in the form of the awards, I give it for creating the water testing labs, etc. So when the calendar is so clean, when my slate is so clean, why should I worry about anybody?
Would you say, I mean, you mentioned that all these studies and research work that you're doing, you obviously apply for government grant, there are grants that come in. If we had more involvement of private companies, philanthropists, would it not be a great boost to all these efforts that individuals such as
Actually,
yourself
I
do
would
it?
say that they are all stakeholders in the system. What we do when we get out with the interesting thing, they should take it forward. I expect them, even if they don't support our research, it's fine because we know how to get the money. It's not
Yeah.
money was never a problem for my research. The beauty of Indian Institute of Science is we enjoy the academic freedom. Because of that only we shine. See, that is where we can do good science. The science that is beneficial society. Why IISc came to Bangalore?
Why?
That's mainly the reason is that the government of Karnataka, government of Mysore said that you should do the society relevant science. They had the vision.
Mm.
They wanted to benefit the society. That is where they wanted the newer innovations, novelty in the research, etc., which benefit the society. That's where IISc came. And today I'm happy that we are successful in taking the science to the society. Whether it's my lake work or whether it's a vaccine that my colleagues have developed or any other technology which is benefiting the
What are
society.
you working on now, or maybe your team or colleagues are working on, which is
Well,
very interesting and coming up?
no, no. One other thing we are doing now is the natural capital accounting and valuation ecosystem services. Nobody knew what is the worth of the ecosystem. When they look at the water body, they think it is a wasteland.
Mm.
Wetland or a wasteland, they call wetland as a wasteland.
Mm.
We did a quantification of the services provided by those wetlands. When the wetlands are clean, like Rachanhalli or Jakkur, we get the goods in the form of fish, fodder, etc., to an extent of about 10,500 rupees per hectare per day.
Mm.
When we pollute the lake or the wetland, it comes down to 20 rupees per day per hectare because the productivity of the fish will come down. Now, who are the people who depend on this wetland? Below poverty level. They are the one who are benefited with a 10,500 rupees per day per hectare. Who are the people who are polluting? Elite section of society, like us who sit on the other part of the city, we do not even know how to treat the wastewater or how to dispose the solid waste. We are the one responsible for that. Similarly, I worked on the Uttar Kannada forest. Where the Uttara Kannada district in Karnataka has a distinction of having highest forest cover in the country to an extent of 80%. Even in that district, over the last 5 decades, I see the forest degradation. 68% or 69% forest under evergreen type has come down to 29% today. Now let's look at the services provided by the forest. Tangible benefit like timber, fuel wood, etc., and non-timber forest produce like spices, etc. When I quantify that, it amounts to about 9,600 crores per year.
Wow.
If I add wild fruit, which animals eat, it comes to 11,000 crores per year. If I add oxygen service provided by the forest or the carbon sequestration, it comes to 15,000 crores per year. Now let us look at the GDP of the district, gross district domestic product GDP, which I consider is a erroneous metrics we are following, which does not take into account the environmental cost of our development
Right.
or the degradation cost of the development, so called development. Now, when I looked at the GDP of Uttar Kannada district, it is about 5,600 crores per year. Now, in that 5,600 crore year, essentially GDP say it's a contribution by the various sectors.
Right.
I was curious to know how much they accounted for the forest. They have accounted 180 crores. Where is 180 crore versus 9,000 to 15,000 crore quantified by a scientist?
Wow.
180 crore, when I talked to the bureaucrats, they said they have accounted only fuel load. That means they are doing the undervaluation. Undervaluation benefits the bureaucracy.
Right.
Okay. Now you might see how this affects the society. When you are showing 180 crore as a contribution, if you get 10% of that as for the developmental activity in the district
You'll
versus
allow.
9,000 crore to
Yeah.
15,000 crore, 10%. Look at the thing. We would have got a higher share for the district, the development, etc. That is where I see
And this must have
that
happened everywhere in the
this is
country.
happening everywhere. That's where when I go to the forest official's house, some of the people, I see everything is teak, made of teak wood, not sub teak haim. Doesn't mean everything is good, everything is looted and kept in the home.
Mm.
The day when we make the forest official accountable for the degradation of the forest, we'll see the forest prospering in our country. What we need to do is we need to look at who are the bureaucrats who worked in this particular forest division.
Mm.
And whatever the degradation happened, that extent of forest degradation, we should recover from their salary,
Mm.
even if they have retired. It should happen. This kind of thing, when it happens, you will see the sustainable development in the country, and that development would be the climate resilient
I
system.
think we need more scientists to stand for elections, and we need to vote for more genius people like you. And I think
no,
those changes will
I
come.
do not agree with you. See, each the sector has its own role to play. We are supposed to do that. Our job is to bring awareness in the society. If I am trained as a scientist, my job is not to become a politician and pollute the system. I should
Do you think all
contribute to that.
politicians pollute the system?
Well, I hardly get a few. See, that's an unfortunate
It's
thing.
unfortunate.
Very unfortunate. Everybody, for example, they are not even the worried about the quality of water given to the Kolar and Chikballapur. When the local people approached me about that wastewater, the partially treated wastewater given to the district, when we collected water sample, I found heavy metal and nitrate.
Gosh.
When I gave the report to the local people, they took it to Supreme Court. Supreme Court stopped the project for a while. And you know what is the beauty of our system? The people who are behind the project were so agitated. The media, there were a lot of discussion about me. In assembly, 2 days they talked about me. 2 days. Okay, they abused me in the assembly. Okay, not just that. When I visited the Vartur, the region, along with Santosh Hegde in one of the NGT committee, I was attacked by the goons who claim that they are from the the Kolar region. But when I looked at it, one politician from Kolar was behind that. He wanted to eliminate me.
God.
So it is just because the local people, the moment the threatening thing started, they formed a ring around me and police came and escorted me. That's it.
Wow.
This is the thing. As long as we keep on electing such corrupt politicians, the people will end up having more and more pollution in their plate, in their thing. That's what happened because these fellows never worried about the security of people, health of the people.
Right.
They worried about only their agenda.
Yes, and their pockets. You also mentioned that this compensation from the Western world that we as a nation, one of the nations we've been asking that they've industrialized and now it's time for us to obviously go slow, but they have kind of polluted. They've done their share of polluting when they were fast on their growth pace. And there's a compensation which should be given to countries
Not
like
just
ours.
industrialized nation. I would say even Bangalore should pay for my Western Ghat conservation.
Absolutely. But do you
You
see
know the
that happening?
kind of resources that has been looted by the Bangaloreans, water that has been siphoned off from this one. Bangaloreans have the responsibility to protect the Western Ghat.
But do you
When we
think
start doing this,
that
getting
compensation
it,
will come? I mean, from the Western world
no,
and
no,
B,
it is. No. This is the thing when we start talking, at international meeting, that becomes the thing. Eventually, that is what UNFCC, carbon credit and all those things.
Right.
Essentially, that is the agenda. If you can arrest the deforestation and have the thing, because, finally we are talking about one earth. All of us have only one earth. Protecting the earth should be our agenda. So protecting earth can happen only when you minimize the greenhouse gas footprint.
Sure.
That is where all of us have to join hands. So it is not the west versus south or a east kind of a thing. All of us have joined hand, and now the people see that is where natural capital accounting and value share ecosystem services is becoming a big thing. See, when I did for Uttar Kannada as well as the lake in Bangalore, United Nations looked at our publication. They approached me whether I can do it for 10 districts in Karnataka as per the protocol developed by them.
Right.
I looked at the protocol, which is similar to what we have done. I signed the MOU with them. But unfortunately, COVID came. Then we were worried. My students were worried whether I'll be able to implement the project. COVID helped me. Because of the COVID, I was not traveling.
Right.
Nor my students were traveling. We were in our lab, we were at home, and digital connectivity was so good. We did not just 10 districts, 30 districts in Karnataka. All districts in Karnataka we completed.
Wow.
When I submitted to United Nations, when I presented to that forum of 179 countries, somebody said, "Oh, India has done it." I said, "That is the power of Indians. When we rise, we'll be above everybody."
So, what say the UN appreciated, we also need it now at the central and state government here to have that kind of a model to assess
No, no,
better,
no. Now, for example, this model, there is a plan to replicate in other states.
such as?
There is a World Bank has come forward. Ministry of Statistics program implementation, the project is coming up. There is something called a blue economy. Now on the priority, the coastal ecosystem, estuary and the marine ecosystem will be looked at. And now we are looking at that protocol. What is the thing, how we have to capture all those benefits and all. See, when we talk about the worth of the ecosystem services, we are looking at the benefits. See, for example, if you sell a product, you might, the market price may be 120 rupees. The cost of extraction and the transportation, you have to deduct it.
Right.
If it is 80 rupees, 100 minus 80 rupees, 20 rupees is a profit. Now, 20 rupees is a benefit. Into the quantity, you look at what is the services provided by that particular goods in the system.
Right.
Like that, you quantify for all the goods. That's what we have done. That's how we arrived at the forest, the tangible benefit, in the form of the fuel load, etc. It amounts to about 2 lakh rupees per hectare per year. Whereas the non-tangible, like regulating services, which include carbon sequestration, climate moderation, and cultural services like recreation, information, etc. If I add that, it amounts to about 10 lakh rupees per hectare per year.
Wow.
1 million rupee per hectare per year. Now, once you know that, if you look, I did the study for the entire Karnataka. It amounts to about, in 2005, it's about 2,800 billion rupees per year, the worth from the forest in Karnataka. And in 2019, because of degradation of forest, it came down to 1,850 billion rupees per year.
Right.
Okay, this is per year, which means suppose if you keep 1,000 rupees in a bank at 10 rupees, 10% interest, you get 100 rupees. Now, to get 100 rupees, you have to keep 1,000 rupees, the principal amount. Like that, if you have to get 1,850 billion rupees a year, what is the principal amount of the forest? That is called asset accounting, which amounts to about 45,000 billion rupees is the asset value.
Wow.
And which is 79,000 in 2005, which has come down to the 49,000 now.
Right.
Or 45,000
Right.
billion rupees. See, that is where the degradation cost. When we look at the degradation cost, the from the 79,000 billion rupees, it has come to 45,000 billion. That is the degradation cost. We should have accounted that in our developmental path. That's where I say GDP, gross domestic product, is a wrong metric. I call it as a gross distorted product. What we need to have in a country is a green GDP. You account all these ecosystem services and also include it.
Right.
Why are you including only 180 crore in place of 9,000 to 15,000 crores per year? If
That's
you do
not a
that,
fair
you will have a
assessment.
holistic growth. And the economy, what Prime Minister keeps telling, $5 trillion, I would say we will reach in a year or a 6 months if we account all our natural thing. We need to do that. So that is where, see, that today the technology has evolved. We have artificial intelligence, machine learning and all. What used to take earlier 2 years, 3 years, you can do it in 6 months. Today's youth are so talented. We need to give them a right task. We can get gold out of them.
So, TVR, what about, when we look at vulnerable, climate vulnerable sections of India, are there any regions that you have identified which are very vulnerable to climate change?
See, I'll tell you, the forest fire is happening, landslide, mudslides are happening. Uttarakhand, for example, or Western Ghats. Go to Kerala part or even Karnataka. These are all vulnerable pockets. They are actually, unfortunately, they are the ecosystem who are sustaining our food, water, etc. Because of our the irresponsible planning or the mismanagement, we have made them a vulnerable. Now, see, we know that forest fire is happening in Uttarakhand. The forests are firing. At the same time, we come up with a project to have a road, widen the road to Joshimath temple. In the process, we are removing 1,000 trees of deodar. Look at the ecosystem services provided by deodar. By any
It's
see, we should
unthinkable.
not allow
Yeah.
that to happen. You might ask, no, tourism has to go up. If people want to travel to that region, let them travel in the nature friendly way. Why should we widen the thing and make that vulnerable spot? By this action, we are making the system more and more vulnerable. Western Ghats. Look at the kind of 45 to 50% forest cover loss in the thing. That is where the landslide, mudslides are happening. 2018, I published an article on Western Ghats. I showed how the Western Ghat forests are decreasing over a period of time. And also had said that we are making this region vulnerable and we will have more and more landslides, mudslides. At that time, I had mentioned in the article about Kodagu and Kerala, etc. And 2019, when there was a high intensity rainfall, high intensity rainfall is an indication of changes in climate. The rain which was supposed to spread over many days will come on one day.
Yeah.
The large amount of water in a short duration. You have higher quantum of water. Now, higher quantum of water, had you had the forest cover on the landscape, you would have allowed 60% to percolate.
Right.
Now you have degraded the thing. Now all the water will rush. Earlier it was moving slowly. Now when you start rushing, landslides, mudslides will happen. With that vulnerable situation, we are aggravating the thing. So that is what happened in our Kodagu. Bagmandla, that priest family was this one wiped out. The couple of families wiped out because of that. See, we are making the region more and more vulnerable with that removal of forest cover and linear projects. With a vertical cut. I do not know what kind of engineers we have on the earth in India. When we construct road, we do not even think about what kind of the safety measure we have to take. Just they cut the hillock, vertical cut, and build the road and make the region vulnerable without even taking into account the kind of the green cover or the forest cover in the region.
I think
That is where I would say sustainable development means taking into account the kind of the land cover in the region and try to protect it or improve the situation so that we will not have the vulnerability. Today, with the big spatial data in the form of remote sensing data, with artificial intelligence and machine learning, I can map the entire country in a few days.
So I think
That
a
is
lot
the
of a lot of participation has to come from society and from citizens, the youth.
See, that is where
Ask
I
the
also have a
questions.
slight problem. That is where every child, every youth in my country should be environmentally literate. I did a study in Bangalore. When I look at the pathetic situation of Bangalore, I don't just blame the government, I also blame the society. When I did the environmental literacy in Bangalore, general literacy in Bangalore is quite good, as high as 85.8. Most of the people can read and write, including our maid servant can send a chat messages, etc. Next to Mumbai, Mumbai is about 88.5%. When you look at environmental literacy, it is only 3.5% of Bangaloreans know how to manage water, from where they get water, how to manage waste, and how to take care of the elders at home, etc. That means 96% of Bangaloreans are environmentally illiterate, and that is what is reflected in the poor environmental condition in Bangalore. And similarly, that has a strong correlation with the environmental condition in other states. For example, Shivamogga, forest cover is 45%, environmental literacy is 45%.
Do you have these data? I mean, this is there
Yes,
for the entire country?
not entire country. See, I have a short life. Yeah, I cannot cover the entire thing. These are all the labor intensive and all those
For
things.
Karnataka
Yeah.
mainly.
Karnataka, some other district where I am interested, especially the Western Ghat district, and with the natural capital accounting, entire Karnataka we did. See, the
So
beauty
this
of
this is data that you have come up. This
yeah, this
environment
is yes,
literacy.
environmental literacy. We even published. I organized a symposium in 2008 itself, focusing on environmental literacy.
And
You
has
know,
it
I
gone up or
org-
has it gone down?
it is coming down.
It's getting worse.
It is getting worse. See, you are making more and more children copy paste masters. What do you expect them to be tomorrow? For example, I'll give a simple example. Look at the building architecture. Today's engineers of your age, how they graduated? Copy paste. They go to the Europe, they look at that glass facade building, they think that's a beautiful. They do not even think that is a European climate, is a temperate climate, a
Correct.
cooler climate where you have to conserve heat so that you will have a required thermal comfort. They will bring that architecture, they paste it in a tropical climate like Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, or Calcutta. Now, what is the consequence of that? I did a study in 3,000 household in a normal building where electricity consumption ranges from 750 units to the 1,400 units per person per year. Units means kilowatt per person per year. In a glass facade building, it is 14,000 to 17,000 units per person per year.
Wow.
10 times higher electricity means 10 times higher emission because ours is a coal based power plant. So that means we are, with our unplanned irresponsible urbanization, we are contributing more and more to the warming of the earth
Right.
than decarbonizing. We are adding more carbon, and we are making the entire globe vulnerable to the calamities, the
Climate
say
change.
human induced calamities in the form of climate change, etc. That's where we have to be sensible. That's where everyone had to this say when we attend international meeting. For example, 2015 Paris conference, we gave a beautiful declaration: decarbonize, we will do it, India will be in the forefront. How much we have done? Only the one front, solar energy, we have done. In all sector, we need to do
You
that.
think we'll meet the 2070 deadline and
Well, if there is a will, there is a way. Because that today's youth, if you fine tune them, they will do marvelous job.
but at
It's
this
not
rate, do you think we are meeting it?
It is possible, provided we take harsh decision. We
Your
need to
kind
do
of
that.
has to, like,
Well,
penalize and this and that,
yes,
which I'm
I
sure
think
is
we need.
necessary.
No, no, we need to see. If you want a discipline at home, you have to be a
Strict.
strict father or a mother. You cannot allow the child to this one wander in the this one when it is supposed to do its responsibility.
I
The same
think
thing should happen in the country.
I think climate, and because this is election season also, and in India we're always in some election season or the other in some part of the country. But I think climate change and sustainability needs to feature more in the election
No,
manifestos. We
actually,
still don't see it as much.
unfortunately, we talk about it, we develop the action plan, then we'll keep all those glossy report in the Almera. We don't implement it. That's the problem. For example, Karnataka, the action plan was prepared. I was a part of that. But where is the action taken? But instead of that, we talk about make it or two during the election, and we make the everyone to feel proud of this one. But unfortunately, people hardly understand the agenda
Implications.
behind that make it or two are such illogical. Look at the kind of project that has been mooted in the Western Ghats region, the linear projects. I have identified the villages, eco-sensitive village. In those eco-sensitive villages, this large-scale project they are mooted. And I have made that portal to the public, including the bureaucrats. They don't even look at it. Unless the youth of today take it to the Supreme Court or NGT, the same thing will continue. For the youth to understand this thing, that youth has to be environmentally
Is
literate.
the NGT powerful enough still?
Well, it is taking some decision which is helping. For
Should
example,
take more
Belandur,
decision.
Belandur and Vartur Lake rejuvenation blueprint I wrote.
But so
2000.
nationally, do you see
No, no,
the
I am
NGT?
answering to that. The rejuvenation blueprint I prepared. Then the local youth approached me when they came to know. I said that you people just talk, will not do anything. They said, what should be done? I said, approach the judiciary. They took it to Supreme Court. The NGT penalized the government of Karnataka 500 crores, which is kept in a escrow account. Now Belandur and Vartur is being rejuvenated. I am a member of that committee, and Santosh Hegde was the chairman of the committee earlier.
But it had to go to the judiciary for it to.
Unfortunate part, we should not have done that. That is where four pillars of our democracy, judiciary, executive,
Correct.
the legislative, media should work independently without any bias. The media also, when I look at the some of the conversation, I do not understand what these political analysts are. If they are biased, then why they are branded as political analysts? See, there is a gap in the every system. The gap is mainly because they do not know the responsibility. Why they do not know know the responsibility? Because they are not environmentally literate.
It all comes
Had
down to
all
that
are
for
this one.
sure.
See, when a child is environmentally literate, the concern for the parents will be there, concern for the family is there, concern for the society is there,
Right.
and that child never think of leaving the country. Whereas when that concern is missing, the child think of making money and then put the elders in the old age home. That's a tragedy.
Right. So if you had to, towards the end of our conversation, some forward looking statements. We are, if we go the way we are going, right? In India and in Bangalore, you can give a Bangalore centric statement also where environment is concerned, but also nationally. If we keep going at the pace that we're going, not taking care of the sustainability factor,
One
what
of the
do we
thing the
expect?
government of India should look at the GDP carefully and take into account the degradation cost of the development project. That means environmental costs are accounted. Then make that a green GDP. Then you will see the changes happening in the system, which will give the holistic picture. Now, today, what you see is the skewed picture. Only the one contribution by one system is given, while the other things are not even shown, which is being deliberately kept aside to siphon off the resources. If you do that, then that resource also you can account it. That is where natural capital accounting and valuation ecosystem services, we need to do it for the entire country on priority. Second thing, we need to have population census. I think all this rubbish of increase and all those things, we should stop that. Let today, we have succeeded in digital world. Can't we take the digital world advantage and do the census of the entire population of
Our
the
census
country?
is majorly delayed because of
Well,
COVID,
this
and
is not, no, it is the excuse. It's not an excuse. That's where I said, in spite of that,
we should
in
have
a
had it.
place, because of COVID, instead of doing 10 district national capital accounting, my student did it for 30 district. When they can do it, a group of 4 or 5 youngsters, what about the 1.4 billion people in this country? The massive this one. We have the talent what we have.
And census
We
is a
should.
major exercise. I mean, the fact that it's so
No,
delayed.
it is not difficult. Only the thing is we need to do that. Third thing, environmental auditing has to happen. The degradation, we should make the bureaucrats accountable. There should be transparency in the. For example, Bangalore. If you digitize all our land records, no one will, and make the data available to the public. No one will have courage to encroach either the stormwater drain or Rajkalve or the lake. Because of suppression of that information, not available to the real stakeholder, the other section of society is taking advantage. That's where our common lands, the Gomala or the grazing land, all those things is being taken away by the vested section of the society. Let us make the transparent this one, the administration more transparent, make the bureaucrats accountable, and we need to have a technically competent people to man the institution like BWSSP, BBMP, etc. Let us not have IAS fellows in all the places. Why should we have these arrogant service fellows in these places? Let us change that. That change should happen. That is where today, with a more and more engineering graduates and more the doctors in the system, we should make them to get into civil service. Let them take the responsibility of handling the country. You will see the prosperity in the country. If not today, 5 years down the line, you will see that prosperity happen.
That's interesting. And last question to the youth of the nation, because that is the whole point of this podcast, what India needs. We want the youth and we want the people to be more involved in doing little things and making small changes in their own way. So what are the top things that you think common people should do?
No, I would say the youth are youngsters of today. First and foremost thing, respect your mother at home. When you respect your mother at home, you will worry for the mother earth. Then you will never allow any kind of abuse on mother earth. Then the pollution won't happen, or the mismanagement will not happen. Nor when you travel, you will also be conscious. See, just because of affordability, you will not think about taking your car and traveling in the Bangalore road. Instead, you will travel by the public transport. See, today, because of the weak public transport, we have the higher emission from the in the transportation sector. If we improve the public transport, make it economical and secured for women, children, then you will see the changes happening in the system. That is where the children should understand that. Once they understand that, then I will see the whole thing changing in our country. Best thing I always tell the people is just respect your mother. When you look at your mother, you will worry about Mother Earth. I don't have to do anything more than that.
Wonderful words, Dr. Ramachandra. Thank you so much for joining us. Really great learning. Learned a lot,
Okay,
and
thank you.
thank you for your words. And I hope that we all become more environmentally conscious after listening to you and watching you, and everybody does their bit.
Sure. Okay, thank you for giving an opportunity to interact with you and through you to the wider section of the society. I hope they will follow these things and make the Mother Earth more secure so that tomorrow all our children are safe
Thank you so much.
with adequate quantity of natural resources.
Absolutely. Very well said. Pleasure having you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Do like, share, and subscribe to our channel. If you have any comments or any feedback or any suggestions, leave them in the comments below. See you next time. Thank you.